Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast, where we believe the best financial advice should always be conflict-free. I'm your host, Casey Smith. Guiding you to financial freedom today is my co-host, Robert Swarthout, founder, CEO, portfolio manager at Teton Crypto Capital. Hey, Robert.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming back for another crypto update. Let's dive right in.
Yeah.
Quite the list here.
Yep. So we have quite the list, and we actually only did this 3 weeks ago. Normally it's a month. So there's been a lot of crypto news as of recently. Yeah. So our first one, kind of jumping back to the spring of 23, there was some bank failures that were happening. So Silicon Valley Bank, Silvergate, and Signature Bank were all banks that went under. And ironically, looking back, and at the time it felt this way, but certainly looking back, it was all about attacking banks that were servicing the crypto industry. And it just felt like that. Well, now there's information coming out via some lawsuits that are happening that basically 100% prove it was a hit job done by the Fed on these crypto banks, specifically in this case, Silvergate. So Silvergate was solvent. They were able to operate, but the Fed informed them that they had to curtail their crypto business. Well, I don't care what industry, if some kind of regulator or law enforcement comes in and says you can't do what your business is, they are functionally putting you out of business. It's not like you can sell the business off in that case. And that's what happened here. So basically overnight, they went from having a business to not having one. And that's what put them in liquidation. It wasn't that they were insolvent or anything like that.
But I thought there was a tweet that went out and it caused kind of a run on the bank. Is that not true?
That was SVB.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was
crypto assets too, as well, right?
Yes, but all of their business wasn't in crypto. Silvergate literally, I wouldn't say 100% crypto, but probably probably 90-something% crypto businesses.
So if Elon Musk was running that company, he would have stepped out front and called out a spade, and SEC would have kowtowed eventually. Yeah. In this case, do you think they didn't really say what was happening because they didn't have the money to go back?
Yeah, I would love to kind of know more of the behind the scenes on this, but at the end of the day, the Fed is quite the organization to fight, because they can make it painful in other ways, even if they decided not to kill your business. So, I don't know. You also wonder, were people paid behind the scenes? I mean, you can have conspiracy theories about this, and they can run pretty wild. But at the end of the day, it's just really sad to see that this is America and this is what's happening. This feels like third world country, banana republic stuff.
Even like Italy, to start a business, you have to pay off a politician, right?
Yeah.
Do you think they needed to do? You feel like the government needed to do this for a particular reason?
This is part of Operation Choke Point 2.0. It is literally termed that, and headed up by Elizabeth Warren and a bunch of immediately, I think it's 100%, if I'm not mistaken, Democrats that were anti-crypto. And this is, instead of going after crypto itself, they went after the banking system, which kind of a bit of a lifeblood. And especially crypto businesses, they weren't exactly even doing trading. There may be companies that were servicing crypto companies and that were banking at Silvergate. Yeah. And fast forward to today.
How is your fund transition through this? Or your bank? Your bank also was saying they're not going to do crypto anymore, right? Or working with a crypto company. Yep.
So to kind of follow along that same thread, many of the customers that were at Silvergate, SVB, and Signature, they went to Customers Bank is literally the name of it. Okay. They started really marketing heavily towards crypto companies. That's who the fund used for the first year and a half, or right about that. And then back in April or May this year, we got a letter saying we had 30 days to find a new banking partner, that they were no longer servicing crypto customers.
Wow.
We then moved to Chase. Chase opened an account. They seemed like they wanted the business. And then 45 days later, they decided they didn't. So at that point, I was sick and tired of dealing with banks. This feels like a storm to me that's going to blow over. This does not feel like a forever thing.
Right.
And it may be a forever thing in the short term, in the sense that, if the Democrats get reelected, it's at least another 4 years of this. I think if the Republicans get elected, blows over. So anyways, for the time being, we are what I call bankless, but we're all on chain. So I hold stablecoin and a wallet, and I pay the bills via stablecoin. It actually feels more modern. I can pay a bill 24/7, and I functionally can make a wire, if you want to call it that, and kind of be done with it. So. But I look forward to having a day where it's easier to on and off ramp investors via a bank account. So right now they would have to send stablecoin, or I would have to send them stablecoin.
I don't know if any common person would even think about that. You go in the bank, you open up a business account. What do they care what business you're in? But it's part of the application process, actually.
Yeah, there's some kind of like codes that a 5-digit code that describes a business. Yep. There's thousands of these things, and it's just this is not the only bizarro thing going on in the world these days, but this definitely is on my list, the stuff that I care about. So
interesting.
Yep. So let's move on to our second topic. The SEC has approved options trading for BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, IBIT. This is just more of like, hey, this is showing development of this particular part of the space for ETFs. I've talked about on my podcast, like, I'm not sure if this is a good thing or bad thing for crypto, because does it add more volatility to crypto? Because options do add volatility. I don't think that BlackRock is enough of the crypto market for the options to make a difference. But like over time, it could grow into that. And we'll kind of talk about that here in a minute, about the growth of the ETFs. But
they don't create those because there's no demand for them. So somebody was asking for that. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason. I would think that the spread's pretty wide, I would think.
I haven't paid attention to it, so I can't really answer that. But I can say is like options, obviously, in some sense, is a leverage product on a particular asset. And leverage in crypto can be crazy. Crypto is already volatile. You add leverage on top of that, and I wouldn't even call it a multiplier effect. It's more of like a compounding effect. Hopefully no one gets burnt, because it
think
could
about
get out of hand.
I have a Tidbitty. It's a little box with these little pixel type things for a display, and there's tons of apps you can put on it. So if the Braves are playing, it shows the Braves score. It shows the weather at the Carsville Airport, like a full METAR, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Then I have Bitcoin on there, and I just passed the offices between the front door and the kitchen. So I walked through the office, and I glance at it. And I remember this weekend, it was like Bitcoin 57,000, and then I walked out this morning early, and it said Bitcoin 68,000. I was like, holy crap, that's a big swing. Well, you think you apply that to options, you could have someone who's betting against Bitcoin, and they get to cover that. That adds more volatility to the Bitcoin.
And admittedly, this gets a little bit out of my my pay grade here, but like. Caitlin Long is a big Bitcoin bull. She, in her world, everything revolves around Bitcoin and only Bitcoin. And she has said at some point, if Wall Street is not careful with dealing with crypto and they start playing their leverage games, it will take down a GSIB if they're not careful. So, globally, basically important bank. Because think about if your options, so was it 100 to 1 or something like that? I forget the exact ratio.
Correct.
So say you bought one Bitcoin or bought one option, all of a sudden you're leveraging 100 Bitcoin and they have to deliver that. And that happens across a lot. There's not tons of Bitcoins out there. There's 21 million at all time. So it could make the price incredibly volatile. So we'll see. Fingers crossed that it doesn't cause problems, because all the crypto will get punished if there's a problem here is my hunch. So
covered calls and buying puts only.
Yes. So our next topic, kind of along that same line. So talking about the Bitcoin ETFs and just generally the quantity of Bitcoin. Again, there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. We're at 19.5 million totally mined at this point. The Bitcoin ETFs combined are 938,000 Bitcoin. That would put them collectively, again, that group, the second biggest holding outside of Satoshi, that has 1.1 million sitting in a wallet that no one knows who Satoshi is. Those haven't moved in over 10 years. So those, you can think of those in some senses never going to be touched outside of some crazy event. So they, using this to illustrate how much the ETFs have really grown in, 9 months. So 10 months, something like that. So
yeah,
crazy world.
Yeah. Who is Satoshi?
So there was this is not part of our notes. There was recently a video that came out.
Same thing, right?
What'd you say?
Who is John Galt?
Oh, yes. Yeah. But there was a short video, maybe like a mini series that just came out that they claimed who they thought Satoshi was, this director. And it was some random dude in California. Like, no. I don't believe Satoshi's a single person. I think it's a group of people. You can kind of guess who the group is at that point. But I just feel like it's bigger than one person. So anyways, so let's change subjects here. We last talked. There was the news that the judge had ruled, and the case for XRP and Ripple against the SEC was over. There was a 60-day period that the SEC or Ripple could appeal any part of the verdict. Ripple was not going to appeal. They were ready to pay their $125 million total penalty. And the SEC waited till day 53 or 55 or something like that. They announced that they're appealing. That started a clock. That happened a little over a week ago. Just about a week ago. We were recording this on October the 16th. By the end of today, the SEC has basically the 7-day clock runs out to basically say what they're appealing. They just said they gave notice of appeal before without really saying what it was. It'll be interesting to see what they think that they want to appeal, assuming that they do. I don't know why they would have done the thing 7 days ago to not do it now. Unfortunately, I hope it runs out and they don't do anything because that means it's over, but unlikely to be the case. So, it's just, from everything that I've read online, from attorneys that follow this, they said the SEC is making a huge mistake here. They lost on all the important things. The way the judge wrote her verdict in ruling that it was many ways unappealable, but the stuff the SEC is likely to appeal doesn't really matter. It just seems like maybe they're just more slinging mud and want to drag this out. This will take another year or two to finish, unless there's a settlement along the way. But the SEC has not seemed to want to be in a settlement mood the entire time. And, again, that's with this administration. If we get a different one come 3 weeks from now, maybe in January things change and something happens, but that's where we stand at this point.
Are you curious why annuities keep coming up as a potential investment option? People are often told that annuities can effectively mitigate investment risks and help secure their financial future. However, annuities often benefit the salesperson and might not be the best choice for you as a consumer. To learn more about the various types of annuities, the negatives of owning them, and better investment alternatives, we have a free ebook on our website just for you. To download our ebook, Buyer Beware, Why Do They Keep Trying to Sell You That Annuity? Simply click the link in the episode notes or visit wiserinvestor.com/guides. Now let's get back to the episode.
Obviously, I don't know Gensler personally, but my thought is that he doesn't like to lose. Most people in that position don't. And I wonder if it's more of just kicking the can down the road. Mm-hmm. You haven't lost if you're still in appeal.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, only 10% of cases that make it to this appeal level actually get overturned. So incredibly small odds if things go their way. So it just, I don't know. You could tell that Ripple was frustrated. Both Brad Garlinghouse and Stu Eldorati, the chief legal officer, were not mincing words when they were tweeting about this. They were ready to have it behind them, I'm sure, but they probably weren't terribly surprised.
Yeah.
And, crypto Twitter wasn't terribly thrilled about it either. So, okay, moving on here. We're going to play true or false. And I think we've done one of these before. I'm starting to add these in my podcast. I love this little section. So you're going to say true or false once to what I'm going to say here. So, if I told you the SEC wants at least 3 years to fill a FOIA request in the Coinbase case, would you believe that? True or false?
So explain that.
Yep. So Coinbase and the SEC are suing each other, kind of over unregistered security sales. That's the SEC's drum that they beat these days with crypto. Coinbase has, as part of their suit and discovery, has said we need to see some basically internal deliberations within the SEC on how you treat these, like how are you thinking about crypto. So we feel like we have the right to know this. That's why they filed a FOIA request, the Freedom of Information Act.
Right.
The judge has not yet ruled on this. At first, the SEC said that they didn't think they needed to answer this at all, like basically like buzz off. Then the judge is kind of like nudging them, and then they're like, oh, well, it's going to be a lot of work. It'll take 3+ years for us to get this information. Like,
I can see them saying that. True.
Sure. Okay. You are correct. The idea that electronic records take 3.5 years to find, where they probably have a search engine. They do FOIA requests all the time, is my assumption. Like this is any government agency. I'm so sick of this agency.
Don't actually have a policy. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, I would say their policy may be to not have a policy.
That's true. That's true. You can hand that over pretty quick.
Yeah. But it's just, if you think about what the point of the SEC is, and granted, we're talking about in the lens of crypto, they may be doing amazing things in the equities market. Set all that aside. In the crypto market, just in general, their job is to protect investors, okay, in capital formation. I could make the case that the ones that they're going after are not the criminals, and the SEC is the criminal themselves. Like it is an agency out of control. So I know I beat this drum often, but it's I guess bring this into our notes here as a way to illustrate just the craziness that's happening in some of these cases. So yeah, and we won't beat that drum anymore. We'll just keep going. So the next topic is BNY Mellon. Unfortunately, the SEC also is involved in this one. We have talked about in the past that SOB 121 was a SEC staff accounting bulletin that basically said banks could only custody crypto in some very rare cases with extra collateral in place, which basically meant banks didn't want to do it. So it was yet another way to attack the crypto industry, if you want to use that kind of terminology. Now, this is the second big brand name, financial institution of old guard that the SEC has given an exemption from. So now BNY, which is obviously the biggest custodian in the world, is now approved to custody crypto. They basically described how they want to do it, all the things. To me, what's frustrating about this is, in my opinion, the market should be the one that is deciding the winners and losers and who the custody providers are, not the SEC. The SEC is picking winners and losers here. And to me, it was cool to see the news that BNY wanted to do it. Obviously, that it's a big stamp of approval. The custody and software solution that my fund uses is called Fireblocks. It kind of breaks up keys in multiple places for redundancy. One of their biggest investors is BNY. So it will be interesting to see if they become an acquisition target. The way that BNY talks about their custody sounds exactly like as if they just have a Fireblocks account, which is not the case. I'm sure it's much more involved than that. But it's cool to kind of see the big names kind of start to creep into this space. So,
because Chase and Bank of America are already doing it? Yes?
I don't, well, Bank of America, no, not that I know of. Chase, or in that case, it'd probably be JP Morgan. They're doing stuff in crypto. I don't think they have a custody solution that they sell or provide. I think Goldman was one that was approved, which I don't know. At the end of the day, just give everyone the same set of rules and let everyone compete. So would be my request. So, let's see here. Moving on, we have some news of a new ETF filing. And there's another one that didn't make it into the notes we'll even talk about. So The first one here is there was an XRP ETF filed for by Bitwise. This is before, literally the day before the SEC appealed. So interesting timing. Sometimes I don't believe that timing is as random as it seems, but who knows? It'll be interesting to see how the SEC treats this application. Obviously, they could be very emotional about it in the sense that they just kind of they just ignore it, or they do something else. But the clock has started. I think it's every 90 days the SEC has to answer or something when it comes to applications like this. So, but
so we have a Bitcoin ETF, we have the Ethereum ETF.
Yeah.
Now you could have an XRP ETF.
Correct. And
in your opinion, would XRP be good to add to your mix of Bitcoin and Ethereum?
Well, I think early on,
Ethereum, people understand Bitcoin. You see that in the price, but the Ethereum ETF has not done very well.
Correct. It is definitely down.
I would argue that it has more usage than Bitcoin.
100%. If you're just comparing those two, they couldn't be any more different in that sense.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I would say that just from a pure diversity standpoint, you go from having two different things in a basket to having three. And they act differently. The people often joke that XRP is a stable coin because admittedly the last 3.5 going on 4 years, it has been dragged through this lawsuit. So its prices act differently.
That would go full circle because you couldn't have it for a long time, right? It was removed.
You couldn't buy any more of it as a U.S.
Yeah.
Well, outside of one example, but yes, it functionally you were cut off from access from it because the exchanges were scared about the crypto lawsuit with the SEC. Everyone has learned that the SEC sues everybody, so they almost ignore all that stuff now. Like nothing gets delisted when a lawsuit happens. Right. But at the end of the day, I think that what's interesting here is it's not just XRP. Over time, there's going to be a lot of these things. And I kind of hinted at it when we first started this portion. But like yesterday, there was a filing for Litecoin. Litecoin is a derivative of Bitcoin. It's proof of work. But there's like no active development on that network. For years, there hasn't been. There's I forget the sponsor, but somebody filed for the application for the Litecoin ETF. And they've also filed for an XRP. So there's a couple XRP ones sitting out there. But it's just, slowly but surely, I guess we're getting some progress in the space with regards to a traditional financial ETF type product or ETP product in XRP's case. It's, hopefully I don't know. It's probably obvious to listeners. Like I'm all for a Republican president because I feel like we get through this crypto phase that we're in now and get some sanity and then hopefully things just move along a lot quicker. So. Yep.
Speaking of Republican and Democrats,
yes,
Kamala Harris has a crypto policy now.
We're
recording this on October the 16th.
16th,
so
yes.
Seems a little late.
It's potentially late. And I think it was like either this last weekend or on Monday, she announced, and I put policy almost in air quotes on this. She literally said that let me get the exact quotes because it's important. She literally said Kamala Harris will deliver for Black men the ability to support a regulatory framework for your cryptocurrency. So apparently she only wants Black men to have crypto. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Crypto has largely not been a race thing. Like, why are we mixing more stuff in on it? Like,
right.
You end up, it's actually a rather diverse space, which is really cool to see. It's not white only, it's not Black only, it's right. Every ethnicity you can think of. But to think that's, this was the same time that she was saying she was going to give Black entrepreneurs forgivable loans. Like, I don't know. To me, it seems like she's trying to buy votes. I'll just say it. But at the end of the day, it does seem a little bit too late to have any meaningful impact. So,
just like her advertisements on TV saying that she's going to give middle-class tax cuts. And I'm like, you're blatantly lying. Mm-hmm. The only way I think she's not lying is if she's counting the expiration of the 2017 Tax Act in 26. Mm-hmm. Expires 12/31/25. So in 26, maybe she's planning on keeping it
the
same, and then therefore that's a tax cut.
Tax cut, right?
it's a white lie is what at best. I started watching those commercials. I'm like, how can you say that?
Yeah.
Like your website, your website literally says the opposite.
Yeah. And
also define middle class. I would like someone to define middle class, because middle class is a very wide
spectrum.
You could say someone making $500,000 is still middle class these days, because have you seen inflation? Do you know what it costs to do things, right? I mean, people do. People coming in here make $500,000 as a family, and they feel very middle class, very
Absolutely.
middle class. And then you got the other side that's making household incomes $80,000. Well, somehow that's still middle class. That should be dirt poor.
Right. Well, someone that's making 5 times as much is not typically in that same kind of bracket. Yeah.
So it's a very, and you can do it. You can make $80,000 a year. I'm talking about families. You got little kids at home. You're working. You have a mortgage. A starter home in our area now is $500,000, and you're probably
absolutely
down, right? So it just, I don't know. These politicians, they just seem so disconnected from. Walk down the street, talk to normal people, listen to their story. No one does that anymore. Bill Clinton is probably the best of that, quite honestly. Bill Clinton could really connect with real people, right? And I don't know, we've had a politician that's been able to do that since.
Yeah, as a bit of an aside here, I watched the Senate debate between Elizabeth Warren and the Republican that's challenging her, John Deaton. They had a debate last night in Boston. It was an hour long. It was much more civil than any of the debates that we see these days. Outside the VP debate was actually pretty civil too, but it was just crazy to contrast a career politician with somebody that has never been in politics before. And it for all intents and purposes, appears to be fighting for the people. And where John comes from, John is. He grew up in the hood, but he is the lawyer that fought in the Ripple XRP case on half of the 75,000 XRP holders. So he has a bit of a claim to fame in that sense. And he literally moved to Massachusetts so he could be in that state to run against her because he hasn't specifically said this, but there's a very clear line here. So he could try to run against her because she's so anti-crypto. And of their hour, they spent 7 minutes fighting about crypto last night.
Wow.
And I'm like, this has never happened. So it was pretty fascinating to watch.
Was yawning, like I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. I'm sure that there's plenty. Well, the people watching, but also the moderators are kind of like, "What's this topic?" So, anyways, we'll get back on track here. So the last topic we have is FTX the judge has certified to pay out to the old customers, and they have begun that process. And if for every dollar that you had in FTX or dollar value that you had in FTX in December or November of 22, you're getting 118%. So $1.18. Okay. That's a positive, especially considering this is a bankruptcy. There's been other crypto bankruptcies that have happened since then that they got back crypto versus dollars, which matters because crypto is up, almost 3x since then, or 2x at a minimum. So they've definitely left out on that, but they're getting money back and they can kind of move on. So
Sam was trying to use that in his appeal process, saying, "Hey, everyone got their money back." Haven't had a Sam report lately. Have you seen anything in social media?
I have. He is in. I don't know if it's exactly the same cell, but in the same unit as Sean Pitty Combs. That is.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wait a minute. He's permanently there? He's permanently in that prison?
Sam is still in the Manhattan. Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was.
I don't know if it's permanent, but I mean, he's still there as far as I know.
Still there. Oh my God.
I was like, worlds colliding.
Kidding.
Yeah.
That's a soulmate you want there, Sam.
Yeah. So I guess to put a bow in this FTX thing, I forget the exact number. I think it's between $10 and $12 billion is given back to customers. That's a good amount of liquidity that you would think goes back into the crypto market. And, we're at a time where they call October Uptober. We hasn't been terribly up. I mean, I guess we've crept up the last couple of days, but when it's in a bull market cycle like we are hopefully looking forward to an exciting Q4. So
cool. Well, thank you for the updates, Robert. Always interesting as usual. We have a couple of other episodes. If you want to learn more about the SEC Ripple lawsuit, we have episode 246. And then also, if you have crypto and you're concerned about how that plays into your estate planning, we have episode 237, estate planning for crypto assets. If you want to learn more about Robert and his fund, you can go to his website, which is linked in our notes. And thanks again, Robert. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out. This episode was produced by Rachel Dotson. This podcast is strictly for informational purposes only and is not to be considered as investment advice or solicitation to buy or sell any financial products, securities, digital assets, or any other investment vehicles, or a basis to make any financial decisions. Wiser Wealth Management Incorporated is a registered investor advisor with the SEC. The host and/or guests may personally own securities, digital assets, or other investment vehicles mentioned on this podcast. Neither the host nor guests of the show are compensated for their participation, and no referral fees are paid to or received by any host or guest for clients, listeners, or similar interests. Investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, insurance professional, and/or legal professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.